What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the PickSwap Media YouTube channel. My name is Sean Bernard as usual, and I'm excited to announce that for this video, we have partnered with WHOP.com, WHOP.com. WHOP is an all-in-one marketplace for sports communities and other digital products. If you're looking to find communities on all things sports, sports capping, sports betting, and sports fandom, head to WHOP.com/sports. They're the all-in-one digital marketplace, the Amazon of the future for digital products. I'm incredibly proud and excited to be partnering, so make sure to go check that out. You can click the link in our description and our comments. Thank you to WAP for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you guys for tuning in.
Going down the field, can they do it again? Yes, they can!
And the catch is made by Taj Washington. Touchdown, USC.
Blocked by Embiid! Timmy, yes!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beef Upfront podcast. Your host, Ryan Coyle, joined alongside Kevin Cannon, as always, for our weekly show, NFL Big Five Games of the Week. This week, the divisional round preview, coming off a very exciting wildcard weekend, some very entertaining games, including that crazy Chargers-Jaguars game. The Bills-Dolphins was surprisingly a competitive game as well. We had a really nice wildcard weekend, but I think it sets up for an even better divisional weekend now. Last week, I personally didn't have the greatest week, 7-12-1. My best bet was Bills -11, so that didn't hit. But Kev, you had a killer week last week. You went 13-6. You had your best bet. You locked that in at Bengals -6.5 earlier in the week. You went 5-1 straight up and 5-1 against the spread. So great job last week, saving your best performance for last. But welcome back to the show, and how are we?
Good. Hopefully we can continue rolling this week.
All right, we head into the divisional round now. 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, one AFC and one NFC on each day. We started off on Saturday afternoon with the 5th-seeded Jaguars, who defeated the Chargers last week, at the number 1-seeded Chiefs coming off the bye. 4:30 on NBC. Chiefs coming into this one as 8.5-point favorites. Over-under is 52.
I'm going with the Chiefs 31, Jags 24. So the Jags end up covering the 8.5 and the over 52 hidden. The Chiefs are coming off their bye and looking to go to their 5th straight AFC Championship game, while the Jags are coming off the shocking come from behind win versus the Chargers. These teams played back in Week 10 with the Chiefs winning 27-17, and Mahomes was excellent in that game, going 26-35 for 331 yards and 4 TDs. I don't think the Chiefs are going to blow the Jags completely out of the water in this game, and I expect it to be relatively close. The Jags have been averaging almost 30 points per game in their last 6 games, which is a 6-game winning streak, and in those games they're also 5-1 against their spread. There's no way the Chiefs will make the same mistakes here that the Chargers did last week, but I also don't think Lawrence can play any worse than he did in the first half last week. Mahomes is just going to be too good, and I think the running game will be able to open things up for him. Pacheco and McKinnon have been really great this year, especially as of late, and they've really opened up the passing game, and they're also involved in the passing game out of the backfield, which has allowed the Chiefs' offense to remain super lethal even after the departure of Tyreek Hill, which everyone thought would be a big issue for the Chiefs, and it really hasn't been so far yet this season, so I'm going with the Chiefs here.
I'm taking the Chiefs to win as well, but the Jags to cover. Give me Chiefs 27, Jags 20, so Jags plus 8.5, under 52. I have seen the one interesting stat that's kind of been floating around social media and on TV. With this game being on a Saturday, it's tough to pick against Trevor Lawrence because he's 37-0 in his career in high school, college, and the NFL on Saturdays. So last week's historic comeback win against the Chargers made it bit of a toss-up there. That record was in jeopardy, but was able to come from behind and win that game and keep that perfect record. Now he has his biggest test yet with this game against the Chiefs coming up. The Jags are the team, though, that nobody wants to play, I think, because they're just a young, talented bunch. They're just riding their momentum that they've picked up throughout the second half of the season. And then they have a big-time risk taker with Doug Peterson at head coach. Anything's possible with this bunch. But then when you look at the other side with the Chiefs, there's Mahomes and Andy Reid. No one wants to face them either. And as we know, Andy Reid is great off the bye, 27-4, including the playoffs, off the bye as a head coach. And Reid has also dominated his assistants, with Doug Peterson being a former assistant. Reid is 16-8 against former assistants in the regular season. as well as a perfect 3-0 in the playoffs. But if one division I think gave the Chiefs some trouble this year was the AFC South. They went 3-1 against the division, but they did lose to the Colts, who was one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. And then they narrowly beat the Titans and Texans. Both those games came down to the wire, and they beat the Jags by 10, but that was at the midway point of the year. And I think after that is when the Jags really started to turn it on and play better football. I think it's one of those games where the Jags can potentially continue to ride that momentum from last week's comeback effort into the first half and maybe make it close at halftime. But they did turn it over 5 times last week, and they were really fortunate enough to face the poverty, now that I'm calling them the poverty Chargers, and as well as poverty head coach Brandon Staley, to come back and win. If it was against maybe any other franchise in the NFL except like the Browns or the Texans, I don't think that they were coming out with that win, but they were lucky enough to face the Chargers and Brandon Staley, who's an incompetent head coach, in my opinion. Those type of mistakes, if the Jaguars do come out and do that again, they're going to get capitalized on by Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And I just think the Jaguars' glass slipper falls off here, but really, really good momentum going into next season where they might be a contender with some potential moves this offseason for the to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl next year. But I do like the Chiefs to win, Jags cover, and the under in this one. Second game on Saturday, the NFC's 1 seed. Now we have the 6 seed Giants, who defeated the Vikings last week, traveling to Philly to play the number 1 seeded Eagles, 8:15 on Fox. Eagles minus 7.5 here, over under 48. Eagles swept the Giants in the 2 games they played them during the regular season.
I'm going Eagles winning by 10, 24, Giants 14, the Eagles covering the 7.5, and the under at 48 hidden. I'm not going to overthink it and second guess myself. The Eagles got a big break by getting the Giants in the divisional round here. The Eagles are a complete roster top to bottom. The only concern are a few injuries. Hurts is no longer on the injury report, though, which is great news. And Lane Johnson said he'll be playing this week. I saw videos of him practicing today. He looked to be moving pretty well, but we'll see how he fares against live action in the game. The Eagles can run, throw, pressure the QB, and cover in coverage. I think the Eagles defense plays outstanding here and is able to limit Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Once you do that, there's not really anyone else on the team you worry about beating you. The Eagles offense, I don't think it's going to be super dominant with some banged up players, like I said earlier, and the Giants secondary has gotten a lot healthier and played a lot better down the stretch. The Eagles run game will be a focus and keep the clock moving and taking body shots at the Giants all day long. I think the Eagles win a close one, but the game will never really be in doubt here.
I like the Eagles to win too, Kev, and the cover and the under. So same picks there across the board. I'll take the Birds here, 31-13. So Eagles minus 7.5 and then under 48. I agree with you. When the Giants beat the Vikings last week, I was very happy with that result and glad that we get a chance to play them. This is one of those games where I think the only way that the Giants find a way to win this one is if the Eagles just harm themselves, or if the Giants kind of replicate that Commanders game plan from earlier in the season where run, and run some more and keep that Eagles high-flying offense off the field. But hats off to the Giants, though. We've ripped on them all year, but here they are, a win away from going to the NFC title game. Say what you want about them, but here they are with the position to do that. I think Dable deserves to be the coach of the year for getting to them to this point, but this is a big challenge in front of him. The last time the Giants went to Philadelphia and won was back in 2013. Philadelphia has also won 12 out of their last 14 home games against the Giants. So really have dominated this series, especially at Lincoln Financial Field. I'm not a huge believer in stats like that. I don't take much into them, obviously, because it's different players, different coaches in all these games. But I think that's something that sticks in Philly's head as well as in the back of the Giants' head, that they know that either they've dominated the rivalry or have been dominating this rivalry, and they want to keep it that way or they want to change it that way. So I think that's one of the things that's like one of those bulletin board type material things for this playoff game. The Eagles are clearly the better team, though, as we've seen all year. And now with Hurts a month removed from that shoulder injury, I think he's ready to go, and I'm confident in his ability going into this game. I really came around on Daniel Jones over the past month or so, and I think he can be the guy going forward for the Giants. But as I said last week, your lack of talent always regresses you back to the mean, especially in big spots. I thought last week when Darius Slayton dropped that pass over the middle, I thought that was kind of that regress to the mean type moment, but the Vikings failed to capitalize on that. I think this week the Eagles exposed this team's lack of talent, though. Unless the Eagles, like I said earlier, beat themselves or Saquon has a few big runs in this one, the Eagles should roll to a big win like they did earlier in the season when it was 41-22, and I think they should easily cover the spread here. So give me Eagles 31, Giants 13. Third game of divisional weekend, we go to Sunday now. Number 3 seeded Bengals at the number 2 seeded Bills. 3 o'clock on CBS. Bills minus 4.5 over under 50. Obviously, this was that big Monday night game a few weeks ago that we didn't get to see through due to the Damar Hamlin situation. So here these two teams are. Fate bringing them back together. Really fun and exciting matchup. Looking forward to this one. What are your thoughts on this game?
I got Bengals 28, Bills 24. So the Bengals covering the 4.5 and the over of 50 hidden. The Bills offense just doesn't seem in sync. It seems like every play is either a home run shot or a no gainer. Josh Allen has also not proven he can protect the ball on a consistent basis, turning it over again a couple times last week against the Dolphins and letting them hang around. The Bengals defense may be able to force a few turnovers and give good field position to Joe Burrow. The concern with the Bengals is the health of their O-line. They may have 3 starters miss this game. That being said, the Bills don't have a great pass rusher since Von Miller went down, and their whole pass rush defense hasn't been great this year. I think Burrow has proven he doesn't need a perfect O-line, and he'll be able to get the ball out quickly and be able to do enough to get a win. There are 2 X factors in this game, in my opinion, that favor the Bills. I expect Damar Hamlin to be shown at the game, whether he's there in person or via video, which obviously will get the crowd going and Bills players can feed off that. The Bills special teams has also shown the ability to create impact plays, but I think Joe Burrow is going to be able to show up under the pressure and end the Bills season in disappointment.
I'm riding with the Bengals too, Kev. 27-24, almost the same score as you. So obviously taking the Bengals plus 4.5 and over 50 there. I've been riding a take for pretty much the whole second half of the season that I think the Bills are fraudulent and Josh Allen's turnovers are what is going to do them in at the end of the day. Last week against the Dolphins, as you just touched on, he turned it over 3 times and allowed Skylar Thompson and company to hang around and make it a ball game. If Skylar Thompson and company can do that, Joe Burrow and the Bengals definitely can as well. You can't do that against the likes of him and get away with it. During the Bills' 8-game win streak, including last week's playoff win over the Dolphins, the only team that they've beat during that span with a winning record is the Dolphins. They haven't really been tested much over the second half of the year. Like I was saying earlier, the Damar Hamlin situation didn't allow them to potentially get a big win like I think they might have needed going into the playoffs, just to maybe boost that confidence against one of the elite teams in the NFL. If they do find a way to lose this game, do you potentially pivot off Sean McDermott? I think that has to be in question after coming into the year as Super Bowl favorites and the past few years disappointing in the playoffs as well. I think it could be time and something maybe they don't look at after this year, but if he doesn't win it all next year, it could certainly be. I know the Bengals are down 3 offensive linemen in this one, but last year Burrow got sacked 9 times in a playoff game and still found a way to win. With him back there, you have a chance every single week. And as you were touching on, Kev, the Bills not the greatest pass rushing defense. Finished 15th in the league this season with 40 sacks, so about middle of the pack. But you don't have Von Miller there, so that's just a huge miss, a huge guy missing from the lineup. And they don't really have maybe Greg Rousseau and Ed Oliver, but those aren't guys that are super scary pass rushers. The magic number, though, doing some research on this one for the Bengals, is 24 points. They are 10-0 this year when they score 24 points or more in a game. I think Josh Allen's turnovers do them in this one, and the Bengals move on to find a rematch with the Chiefs in the AFC title game again. So Bengals 27, Bills 24. Josh Allen's turnovers are what costs the Bills a chance to go to the AFC title game. And our last game of divisional weekend, probably the one I think that'll get the most ratings. 2 of the more historic franchises in the NFL. You got the 5th seeded Cowboys at the 2nd seeded 49ers, 6:30 on Fox. 49ers minus 3.5 and over under 46.5 here.
I got the 49ers winning 31, Cowboys 27, 49ers covering the 3.5 and the over of 46.5 hidden. I'm not putting much stock, if any, into the Cowboys win against the Bucs last week. That's who the Bucs have been all year, struggling offense who can't run the ball and rely on their immobile 45-year-old quarterback. The defense of the Bucs also underwhelmed most of the year like they did in that game. I'm not taking anything away from the Cowboys. They're a really good team who I would not want to play, and I hope the Eagles don't have to play them. Last week they did what they were supposed to and beat up on a team that they're clearly better than. The Cowboys did nothing last week to make me believe in them any more than I already do, but the 49ers did. Everyone since Brock Purdy came on the scene has been talking about how well he's played, rightfully so, but everyone's been talking about a wall that he may hit. and I think he may have hit it last week in the first half. He didn't play well at all. The Seahawks went into halftime with the lead, but he came out in the second half and balled out. The Cowboys' strength is their pass rush, which was simply dominant last week. However, I think the Niners have the weapons and scheme to neutralize it. Purdy's also able to move around in the pocket pretty well. The Niners' defense, I think, will be able to hold the Cowboys' offense in check. I do not think it is fair the way the NFL scheduled the games, though, either. I think the Cowboys do have a serious gripe with the NFL, with the Niners playing early on Saturday, and then the Cowboys had to wait until Monday night to play, and the game is in San Francisco, and I think the Niners take advantage of that and eliminate the Cowboys for the second straight year.
Yeah, that's one of the big talking points going into this game, Kev, is the rest element, the preparation element as well. The 49ers basically have like a whole 2-day advantage on the Cowboys in terms of rest and preparation. So certainly something to watch there, but I hate to do this, but I'm going to start it off with I'm ready for the world to burn to the ground. I'm ready for the most stressful non-Super Bowl game of my life, and I'm ready for the Dallas Cowboys to move on to their first NFC title game since 1996. I'm going to take the Cowboys to beat the 49ers and travel next to Philadelphia next Sunday to play the Philadelphia Eagles with a trip to Arizona and the Super Bowl on the line. This isn't clickbait. This isn't wishful thinking for a potential Eagles-Cowboys game. I think they match up well with the 49ers, and I do think that they're going to find a way to win this game. I got the Cowboys winning 30-27, so Cowboys plus 3.5 and over 46.5. When the Cowboys are clicking like they were last week after those first two drives, they are a very, very tough team to stop. We've seen that multiple times this year that they can explode on offense, and the defense, when they're playing well, and able to pin their ears back and go after the quarterback, they're just as good as any defense in the league in certain moments. And I think the Cowboys, a big thing for them here in this one, have revenge on their mind after last year's embarrassing playoff loss, especially the way it ended with Dak sliding at home last year to the 49ers. I also am ready to admit that Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. We can't just wait for him to hit that wall like you were talking about, Kev. I think this is just what he is, and he's got all these talented playmakers around him with a really talented coaching staff working with him. I think he's just a good player, and I think these two quarterbacks with Purdy and Prescott are going to go back and forth, and whatever one maybe makes the big turnover or the big mistake is the one to lose the game. I think the big element to this Cowboys team, though, that we kind of saw last week is Dak using his legs. I feel like they wanted to keep him upright, keep him healthy for most of the year, and didn't really open up the playbook. Last week, we saw him even with a few design runs, and with it in the playoffs now, it's really just kind of unleash everything. Don't hold anything back, and I think that could be a major difference maker in this one. While the defensive performance of San Fran has been strong all year, I'm worried about their corners still, and I think CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup have a chance to make some plays on them, like we saw DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett do last week. You combine that offensive potential with a strong defensive effort from the Cowboys that they've put out for most of this year. I think this one has upset potential. I'll take Cowboys over the 49ers, and maybe the longest week of my life next week if we do have a potential Eagles-Cowboys NFC title game. But that'll do it for the divisional round picks. We have one last segment to go over, our best bets of the weekend for the divisional round. I'll take, might be a homer pick here, but I really like them to win and win big. I like the Eagles minus 7.5. This line is telling me the Eagles win and do it big. I thought it was going to come out around 6, but it probably, a divisional game, playing the team the third time in the year. It's supposed to be a close, tough, hard-fought game. I thought it would be maybe even more like 3.5, 4. When I saw it come out at 7.5, that gives me a lot of faith that Vegas believes in us, and more times than not, Vegas is right. So I think that the Eagles win, and they do it pretty comfortably. And I think that they are on the side of same side I am, where your talent's going to get exposed eventually by a better team, and I think this is that game.
My best bet is Eagles plus 4.5 Bengals plus 4.5 versus the Bills. I'm going to take that money line, so I think 4.5 is a pretty safe bet. I think the game will be close either way, but I think it's also going to be a great game to watch, but I'm going to go with the Bengals here. I think they take advantage of the Bills.
All right, well, that'll do it for NFL Big 5 games of the week, the divisional round. 2 more episodes to go on the season. Can't believe we're already here. Conference championship and Super Bowl right around the corner as well, but thank you, Kevin, as always, for joining. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe. Any last second comments, Kev, before we head out?
Yeah, hopefully everything goes well this week. Eagles win, Cowboys lose.
All right, thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we will talk next week.